Hello and welcome to Breakfast All Day. I am Christy. That is Matt. That is Alonso. We are having a most auspicious day because we get the pleasure of talking about Bill and Ted Face the Music. It is the third movie in the Bill and Ted series. With the first one, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, was 89, right? And then Bogus Journey was 91. Keanu and Alex are back as the most bodacious dudes. Alonzo, what's it about?
So, Bill and Ted are 30 years older and not particularly wiser. And despite what the prophecy foretold, they have not yet written the song that will bring all of time and space together in perfect unity and energy. And it's beginning to wear on them. They keep trying to make it happen, and it just isn't. They've had a falling out with their bass player, a.k.a. Death. And they now have fully grown daughters who are in their 20s themselves, played by Samara Weaving from Ready or Not and Bridget Lundy-Paine, who seem to be sort of equally smart, stupid in the way that their fathers are, and definitely as into music as they are. An emissary from the future informs them that they got to get cracking, and that if they don't create the song by 7:17 p.m. that night, that all reality as we know it will fall apart. They decide, because they can't figure out how to write the song, they will find themselves in the future and steal the song from them, but that doesn't go well. And we get a very complicated chase across the past and the future to figure out how to save everything and everyone.
It's kind of the same exact movie as Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Right? Yeah.
In Matt shaking his head, no, but in that they have to go on like this scavenger hunt, right? Not they, but their daughters have to go on the scavenger hunt to collect all these people and amass them into one place.
Right. Yeah.
Fish out of water.
And meanwhile, their daughter is collecting together rather than people like Joan of Arc and Napoleon Bonaparte, she's going through and putting together the greatest band ever with people like Jimi Hendrix and Louis Armstrong and a Chinese flautist from the dynastic period and a caveman who was apparently the greatest drummer who ever lived.
And Mozart.
And Mozart, yes. How could I forget Mozart?
You need Mozart, right. So it's funny. Courtney Howard, our friend and fellow critic, Courtney Howard, wrote on Twitter today. No, sorry. Tommy Lafley wrote this, that if I haven't seen the first two, will I enjoy this? And I think you absolutely have to have A, seen them, and B, love them, because so much of the allure of this movie is just the nostalgia of seeing these actors in these roles again. If you came into this cold, you'd be like, who the hell are these dudes? Like, why is Keanu Reeves acting like this? I think if you're young, if you're like in your 20s and you never saw the first couple of ones, I think the three of us in the ages that we are kind of in the sweet spot for this movie. And so a lot of the allure of it is not necessarily the dialogue or the story, but it's like the warm
the callbacks.
But also like just like the warm sweetness of their friendship, because no matter what happens, they stick by each other. They're good natured, no matter how frustrating their situation may seem. They find a way to stir up some optimism and figure it out and move on to the next thing they have to do. And so in these times especially, it's sort of a nice heartwarming thing to see. But I feel like if we were in ordinary times, and if you've never seen the first two, you're going to be like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I was 22 in 1989, so like I was already like after these movies for me were post college. I'm sure if you were like a teenager when you first saw them, whether they were new or you saw them, later on video or whatever, that you probably have more affection for these characters and for the franchise itself. I'm a bigger fan of Bogus Journey actually than of Excellent Adventure. I think it's smarter and funnier, and I love the addition of William Sadler as Death, who does reprise the role here, and I was pleased to see him. But this reminded me of when I was a kid in the 70s and they started putting out like those TV movies where they would reunite the cast of old 50s sitcoms like Leave It to Beaver or Father Knows Best or whatever. And they weren't particularly funny, but it was just like, oh, it's nice to see them all together again. And my main feeling this is like, oh, it's nice to see them all together again, but I wasn't laughing a lot, and I didn't feel like they were really building on the sort of mythos of this sort of silly series. That it was just kind of like, it's a pleasant enough way to pass the time. And if I loved these movies more and cared more about these characters, maybe I would love this movie more. But I was just sort of like, it's this.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of both of the first movies. I saw them both in the theaters. The first one went into kind of not knowing anything. Oh. And one of the things that I love, Bill and Ted the first Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is such a great example of, we're going to take a silly idea, basically take Jeff Spicoli and his best friend and give them a time machine, and they're going to just go all the way with it. And they do, and it works. The idea is that these guys have, the first one, they have to complete their history assignment, but now they have a time machine, and they are sweet and dim enough that it works for them. They kind of fail upwards. But you're okay with that because there is a warmth there. Like there's this naivete to them.
Yeah, Christy's right. The kindness really carries a lot of this.
And so in the second movie, like they have to come back from death, right? Like they and you could look at, like there's a hidden philosophy in those first two movies. The idea of be excellent to each other, coupled with the warmth and the kindness, allows these two people to literally beat death and come back from the dead. And so you kind of get, like, when they set up when George Carlin has Rufus. Fools. Well, yeah, they are holy fools. And so when Rufus tells them your music will change the world, you could kind of see that because they are so positive and they are so, kind and so loyal to each other that example, you could see like, hey, we could do worse than that, right? This movie, I think, forgets that. I think this movie is written by people who have same people, but have spent right. Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson. Who I didn't realize till just this week, Chris Matheson is he's the son of that Matheson, Richard Matheson.
Oh, Richard Matheson, really interesting.
Yeah, the sci-fi writer behind I Am Legend and all kinds of right. So anyway, I think,
and this is directed by Dean Parisot, who did Galaxy Quest,
I was going to mention that,
which is an amazing movie.
Quest,
this one's really disappointing, and there's a lot. Look, like the cast works here. There's just enough that kind of makes it okay, but I feel like there's some grave missteps they take, and one of them is the idea that they're stealing from themselves. I think the biggest mistake that they make is setting up that the idea of they have to write one specific song, because the first two movies weren't. It was more like their music in general. And so you could kind of like, look, if you wanted to get into it, you could say, okay, their music becomes this delivery device for their philosophy. But by making it one specific song, there is no way on God's green earth that anyone today could give an audience music that is going to fit that bill. Right.
The other movies make it a thing that's going to happen, but this movie, you actually they write the damn song.
They have to write the song. Now,
not even the late Adam Schlesinger could write a song that is going to unite the universe.
Right now, my note would have been in the script like, no, you guys need to treat the song like Bird Box. Like people only ever get to listen to it on headphones, and they come out of it crying and change. Like that's.
Yes.
But the audience never like
the light in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction or whatever.
That's
like
interesting.
Right.
That's a good point, because the song that they make is like, okay.
And then they try and write themselves out of it, and I don't want to say what happens there, but coupled with like the daughter characters are given really hardly anything to do.
Oh, and that's such a wasted opportunity.
And that's a huge it is a wasted opportunity because they seem to be much sharper about music than their fathers really ever were.
Right.
And I think there could have been something interesting to explore there, but they don't. And I'm just bummed out because I love the holy fool characters that Bill and Ted are. And I think this movie at times somewhat mistakenly walks them away from that, especially as they're dealing with their future selves. I think that would have been more palatable if they were, say, jumping dimensions rather than. But
Yeah.
Now that being said, the actors do a great job. The scene in the couples counseling scene is genius. Like, and that's the scene where I'm like, man, why couldn't you have the rest of the movie be this good?
Well, I think the wives then get dispatched on this subplot that goes nowhere.
Yeah.
That basically just sort of removes them for the film for most of the time for no real reason. It doesn't really pay off. But yeah, Jillian Bell is like the couples therapist is really funny. And yeah, there's like these germs of ideas that could have turned into something. Like the idea of them having daughters who are exactly like them, but like even deeper, like sort of music nerds who grew up with the internet. And so they know an array of like, all these deep cut things. Yeah, like all of this stuff could have gone somewhere more fun and interesting. And it just feels like they're coasting on the idea that they're even doing it and that they got Keanu and Alex Winter back. And it just kind of feels like, well, I'm sure they all had a very nice time making this.
But stealthily, the daughters are the ones who actually drive this plot and get things done. Because whereas Bill and Ted are the ones bouncing through time and revisiting themselves and getting it wrong over and over again, the daughters have a plan. And they're the ones who like actually drive this in a way that is significant now.
But they're not. But they don't
get to be funny. Is the thing. Like they yeah, you're right. As a plot mechanism, they are the ones cobbling things together, and they're the ones who make all the good stuff happen. But individually, like those actresses don't really get to sink their teeth into much, and they don't become these comic creations the way that Bill and Ted have become over the years.
Or I mean, look, like if you're actually interested in jumping this off as a new series, like make them completely the primary characters and put Bill and Ted in the position that you see Clarence Clemens and the authority figures are in the first movie, where they're just kind of sitting there being peaceful, right? And it's some adventure that their daughters have to do.
Maybe that's the next one. Maybe they get the fourth movie as Billy and Thea's excellent adventure. Who knows? I like the casting of Kristen Shaw. It's always good to see her. I like, anytime Holland Taylor gets to show up and be a badass, I like. What's interesting, though, is that they brought some actors back from the original, and yet when they cast the princesses who are now their wives, they have actresses who are like a good solid 10 years younger than Keanu and Alex.
Yeah, I was always bummed that
anyway.
they had recast those roles in Bogus Journey, and then they've recast them again.
It's Erin Hayes and Jayma Mays are now the princesses doing decent British accents. But
have we noticed that Alonso has totally frozen?
Oh. Alonso, blink if you can hear us.
He cannot.
He is. Anyway, we'll keep talking. I do recall. Oh, he's gone. He's gone entirely.
Oh, he's coming back.
Oh, wow. Maybe he'll come back. I love the first movie, and it's one that like still sometimes I'll find myself quoting. Like I'll say, Socrates, dollar bill guy. There's such an infectious joy to their goofiness. Dust in the wind, dude. And anytime you go anywhere on the 210 freeway in San Dimas, of course you got to think about Bill and Ted. So
San Dimas high school football rules.
It really does.
Anytime you're on a mic, public speaking, and you don't have anything to say, just rap with San Dimas high school football rules.
Yes, Alonso's texting us saying, there goes my internet again. So anyway, we should we'll try and wrap this and try and go find Alonso and bring him back. But there's a 6.3. Matt, what is yours?
I was a 5.5, and so was Alonso.
Alonso's also a 5.5. So our numbers are 5.8. Again, as we enjoy saying around here, if you like this kind of thing, you will like this kind of thing.
I do want to bring up one quick thing, because it was you or Alonso were saying that if you're in your early 20s and you haven't seen these movies,
I said that.
If you are in your early 20s, I'm looking at everybody, the millennials out here. If you have never seen these movies before, your parents have failed you.
You should go back and watch the originals. It's true.
Yes, you should.
I think Alonso's coming back. There he is. Is he on his phone? Alonso, are you on your phone? Anyway,
he's connecting to audio.
I'm on my phone now.
Wow. Okay.
Because my internet is petered out.
Well, we were just, it was time for you to do the spiel. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We're talking about Lovecraft Country and the new HBO docuseries, The Vow. You don't want to miss those. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Be excellent to each other. Bye.
Bye.